Hello, how are you? Welcome. Today we're going to get a little messy. We're going to make some dirty water. Then we're going to make some water filters or a water filter to clean our dirty water. So before we do that, I'm just going to get my water up here. Hopefully you have all of your supplies ready if you're going to do this while you're watching this with me. Otherwise you can just do it afterwards if that's what you prefer. So being that we are here in Chenango County, I did this with some 4-Hers the other day virtually, and we talked about the Chenango River and just a few facts about that, and then we got into it with our water and made it dirty. So the Chenango River, which goes through Chenango County, actually makes its way down into Binghamton, and it flows into the Susquehanna River, which goes through New York and Pennsylvania and into a tiny little bit of Maryland and then out into the Atlantic Ocean. So what we were talking about the other day is that whatever we do to our river up here, to our Chenango River, affects everyone further on down the stream. So Chenango River into the Susquehanna River, out into the Atlantic Ocean. So if we pollute our river up here, all of that pollution is going to make its way out into the ocean. So we want to be thinking about what we're doing and being good stewards up here so that we can protect all the things downstream. All right, let's get started. Get your clean, fresh water here. The first kind of pollution that we're going to talk about can actually be from soil and just happens with erosion. So when there's trees that are removed, if there's larger areas, if there's deforestation, when lots of trees are removed, and then you get a big rainstorm that comes in, that just washes out all of that soil because those trees' roots were holding the soil in place. So when that happens, that ends up in our waterways. So you can see how that makes it cloudy and can make it hard for sunlight to get through, which would make it harder for plants to grow. And all of our creatures living in the water need plants because they produce energy and provide food for them. So trees coming down one way or the other, that removes those roots that are holding the soil in place, and then that can wash the soil into the water. Similarly, if there are construction sites or building sites that the trees get removed from or areas of land are cleared, and then you get rainstorms that come in, that can wash the water off. So we'll add some more soil for that, or dirt, whatever you have. So we had really clear water to start with, right? It's getting less clear. I have some floating at the top of mine and some kind of drifting down. So other things that can get pollutants into the river are farms. There are a lot of farms in the area, and if you get runoff from the farms, that can get soil into the water. But also if they have animals on their farms and they have manure, that gets washed into the water depending on what's going on at the farm. So we're going to add another scoop here to represent manure getting washed into our waterways. All right. So who wants to take a drink of this? We've got dirt that's run off the land and manure. Yikes. Okay. So we also have factories and manufacturing plants, and if they have any chemical spills or any waste product that gets spilled, that can end up in our river. So if you have food coloring, we're going to add a couple of drops of that to represent any waste that can get spilled. So when I did this the other day, we talked about Earth Day and then laws and acts that were brought in after Earth Day and the years following the first Earth Day in 1970 that really helped protect our waterways. But back before those laws came about, we had companies and manufacturing plants where they're just dumping waste into the water. So that doesn't happen as much anymore, but it can still happen. So if you have another food coloring color, we're going to use that to represent fertilizers and pesticides and herbicides that homeowners put on their yards, and then any excess that doesn't get absorbed by the plants on the yards can get washed off. So farms and homeowners that put on fertilizers and pesticides, that's what this is going to be for. So just add a couple of drops. I know it's hard to see right now, but hopefully you can see it in yours at home. Okay. Another contaminant that is very common is oil from motorboats. We're talking about waterways here. So if you have any motorboats that are in the water driving around and they're adding fuel to their boat while they're on the body of water, you always get a few drips that end up in the water. If they have a leak, a little leak from their motor, you can get oil that gets into the water. And similarly with highways and roads, if you have vehicles going by that have oil leaks or leaks in their gas tanks, all of that gets onto the road, and even if it's not right next to the river, it ends up in those streams which lead into the bigger rivers. So to represent that oil, if you are going to use oil, we just need a little bit, just like a tablespoon. So we'll just pour that in. And do you see where that oil ended up right now? So mine is right here, right on the top. So all of the contaminants and pollutants that I just talked about, you don't have to be right next to the river with your factory or your farm to get those toxins into the water. All of our water is connected, our groundwater and everything is connected and makes its way, one way or another, to our streams and rivers. All right? So that's something we want to think about and think of ways to prevent that from happening. But for now, let's stir this up and see what happens. All right, when I first got this water out and it was crystal clear and it looked deliciously crisp and refreshing, I don't know about you, but I don't want to drink this right now. So now we're going to build a filter to try to clean some of that water out. So you have two options for the filter. If you have a funnel, that will work. If you have a water bottle that you can cut the top third off, and kids, have your parents help you with this, or a 2-liter soda bottle, you can cut the top third off, and this will be your funnel. So in these funnels is where we're going to use our materials to build the funnel. So hopefully you have either a coffee filter or a paper towel that you can put in there. If you have cotton balls, I just want to show you, you can unroll them actually so that they're not just a ball. And then you have like a little strip of cotton that you can use in your filter. If you have sand, sand is an excellent medium for a filter. It's used in a lot of filters for public drinking water and pool filters. So sand is good. If you have that, you just need like a half a cup or a quarter of a cup of that to kind of layer in here. So what you're going to do is take your funnel, whichever one you're using, and you're going to just layer your different filter mediums, your different materials that you have in here so that when we pour our dirty water in, we can trap as much of the pollution from our water in this filter so we end up with as clean of water as possible. One thing to keep in mind is to try to keep all of your stuff to the edge of your filter so that when you pour, there's not gaps. So if you want, you can always tape your coffee filter once you get that in. And you can build this however you want, all right? So I want you to hit pause and you build your filter. I just want to tell you one thing about this. So if you're worried, you could put tape around the outside to just kind of hold that filter in place so you don't pour dirty water in between the filter and your funnel. Okay, so hit pause, build your filter, and we'll come back and we'll pour our dirty water at the same time, okay? Okay. How'd you make out with your filters? What did they look like? So now for the fun part, and the messy part. We're gonna take, if you have a filter like this with a 2-liter soda bottle or with a water bottle, you're gonna take your filter, make sure the cap is off so the water can go through, and you're gonna stick it right in there. And we're gonna pour our dirty water into here. If you're using this method, make sure you have a jar or a cup that this can fit into, okay? And if you don't have a clear cup that it can fit into, it's kind of fun to get a clear cup so you can pour the clean water in afterwards, and then you can get a look at it. So find something clear to use, and if not, just get something that you can pour your clean water into so you can get a look through it from the side. Okay, so let's make sure we stir this up. Ooh, you can kind of see my crazy river water here. So we're gonna give her a stir, and then we'll pour it into our filters and see what it does. All right, so get ready, and we'll pour in 3, 2, hold on. Don't forget, you want to aim for the center of your filter. You don't want your stuff in your water to get trapped on the sides, okay? One more countdown. 3, 2, 1. So pour slow. Oh, there we go. It's coming through. I made a little bit of a mess here. All right. So, what's yours looking like? Here's mine. So if you look at it before and after, there's definitely less chunks in it. You can keep pouring as much as you want. Just make sure you don't put too much in that it overflows whatever is holding your cleaner water. So the next thing that is fun to do if you want is to kind of take apart your filter and see what parts of your filter trapped what parts of the different things that we added to our water. All right, so you can try to figure out if anything was able to catch that oil, if some of that food coloring was actually removed. Your water might still be colored, but maybe you can see if some parts of your filter were actually able to trap some of it. Okay. So look at that, kind of dissect your filter. If you want, if you have extra time and a few more filter materials, after you dissect your filter, if you still have dirty water, you can build a second one. You can do a rebuild. You can use your same funnel and your same container. You can just throw out your first filter and make a new one to try to capture even more of all of our dirty particles in the water, okay? Well, thank you for building with me. From my group the other day when I did this, we kind of came up with a list of some things that people could do to help our planet to maybe try to limit the amount of pollution that's getting into the water to begin with. So some of our things from the other day were recycling. A lot of times not only garbage ends up in our waterways, but different containers that could be recycled. So recycling is a great thing to do. Throwing garbage where it belongs. And then some things in general that just help our planet are to drive less or drive with an electric car. Or if you don't have to go too far, maybe you could walk or ride your bicycle. Planting a garden is a great way to help yourself and our planet. The plants in the garden are actually mini air filters, which is pretty neat to think about. They take in CO2 and they use that as part of a process of making food for themselves, and then they give out oxygen. So they take in our dirty CO2 and they provide us with oxygen. So that's a neat system. Another thing that we talked about is in your own house, ways you can help our earth by saving and conserving energy is turning off lights when you're not in a room anymore. A lot of people, like myself, you don't even think about that, and that's an easy thing to do. Another thing you could do at home is composting so that you're producing less waste to begin with. So, composting natural food scraps and coffee grinds and egg shells and things like that are a great way to actually get nutritious soil afterwards, after all of that breaks down, and you produce less waste. So, thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this, and send us your pictures. Let us know what kinds of things you did on Earth Day or things that you would like to do to help our planet. Thank you very much. Bye.